The poop cruise from hell, the Carnival Triumph Fire of 2013. When you envision a cruise, you might imagine sun-soaked decks, gourmet dining, and leisurely strolls under the stars. The last thing you'd expect is to find yourself defecating into a biohazard bag while enduring the stench of raw sewage permeating every corner of the ship. Yet, for over 3,000 passengers aboard the Carnival Triumph in February 2013, this nightmare scenario became a grim reality, earning the ill-fated Voyage the notorious nickname, the Poop Cruise from Hell. The Carnival Triumph, launched in 1999, was the pride of the Carnival Cruise Line fleet, a 102,000-ton behemoth spanning 893 feet in length. With 13 passenger decks, 4 swimming pools, a sprawling casino, and numerous dining options, the ship was a floating palace designed to offer a luxurious and carefree experience for its guests. On February 7th, 2013, the Triumph set sail from Galveston, Texas, for what was supposed to be a relaxing 4-day voyage through the Gulf of Mexico, with a scheduled stop in Cozumel, Mexico. The first 2 days of the cruise went off without a hitch. Passengers bathed in the warm sun, indulged in the ship's many amenities, and partook in the various entertainment options on board. But in the early hours of Sunday, February 10th, just a day after leaving Cozumel, disaster struck. At 5:28 a.m., a fire broke out in the ship's engine room, triggering alarms and waking many passengers from their sleep. The ship's crew quickly responded, and the fire was contained within the engine room thanks to the ship's automatic fire suppression system. However, the damage had already been done. The blaze knocked out the Triumph's propulsion system, leaving the ship stranded in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, roughly 150 miles off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. Without power, the ship's air conditioning, running water, and most crucially, its sewage system were rendered inoperative. As the hours turned into days, conditions aboard the Triumph rapidly deteriorated. Toilets overflowed, and the smell of human waste soon began to permeate the ship. Passengers were provided with red biohazard bags to use as makeshift toilets, and the ship's crew scrambled to clean up the mess as best they could. But with no functioning sewage system, the situation quickly became unmanageable. As the ship drifted aimlessly in the Gulf, passengers and crew were left to endure sweltering heat, the stench of raw sewage, and a growing sense of desperation. Makeshift tent cities sprang up on the ship's open decks as passengers sought refuge from the increasingly unbearable conditions inside their cabins. The once luxurious cruise liner had become a floating squalor, with scenes reminiscent of a disaster movie. Adding to the misery, the ship's stabilizers had also failed, causing the Triumph to list heavily in the water. Passengers reported having to clutch walls and railings to keep their balance as the ship tilted with each gust of wind. The list also exacerbated the sewage problem, with waste from the toilets and overflowing drains seeping into cabins and hallways, creating an even more unbearable environment. Despite the dire conditions, the Carnival Cruise Line assured passengers that help was on the way. 2 tugboats were dispatched to tow the crippled vessel to the nearest port in Progreso, Mexico. But as the Triumph continued to drift northward, it became clear that Progreso was no longer a viable option. The decision was made to tow the ship to Mobile, Alabama, a journey that would take several more agonizing days. During this time, passengers endured a harrowing ordeal. Food supplies dwindled, leading to long lines for meager rations of cold sandwiches and fruit. Tensions ran high, and reports of fights breaking out over food and other supplies began to surface. The ship's crew did their best to maintain order and keep spirits up, but as the days dragged on, the situation grew increasingly desperate. By the time the Triumph finally limped into Mobile on the night of February 14th, the ship had become a media sensation. News outlets dubbed it the Poop Cruise, and passengers were eager to share their horror stories with the world. The disembarkation process took several hours, as weary passengers, many of whom had spent days sleeping on deck or in makeshift shelters, finally set foot on solid ground. The aftermath of the Triumph disaster was marked by a flurry of lawsuits and investigations. Carnival offered passengers compensation in the form of a full refund, $500 in cash, and a voucher for a future cruise. But for many, this was little consolation for the ordeal they had endured. The incident also prompted widespread criticism of Carnival's handling of the crisis and raised questions about the safety and reliability of the company's fleet. In the months following the disaster, Carnival implemented a series of measures to prevent a similar incident from occurring in the future. The company invested millions in upgrading the Triumph and other ships in its fleet with additional backup power systems, improved fire safety measures, and enhanced sewage and waste management capabilities. Despite these efforts, the legacy of the Poop Cruise continues to haunt Carnival. The Triumph was eventually refurbished and renamed the Carnival Sunrise, but the memory of those 5 hellish days in February 2013 lingers on in the minds of those who lived through it. The Triumph disaster serves as a stark reminder of the potential dangers of life at sea and the importance of robust safety measures and contingency planning for the passengers who endured the ordeal. It was an experience they would never forget, a vacation turned nightmare that would forever be known as the Poop Cruise from Hell. As the cruise industry continues to grow, with larger ships and more passengers taking to the seas each year, the lessons learned from the Carnival Triumph disaster remain more relevant than ever. Safety and preparedness are paramount, and cruise lines must be vigilant in ensuring that their vessels are equipped to handle even the most unexpected challenges. After all, when you're miles from shore, surrounded by nothing but open water, there's no room for error. If you found this video interesting, please add a like and leave a comment if you want to support the channel.